planning have we done?
We've done like family time, the detail.
Family time, the details. You want to do strategic planning?
Yeah, I think how planning has to tie in with your purpose.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, welcome to our FGAC Talks podcast. I still have to wrap my head around it. Like I don't know, what do we say? FGAC Talks or podcast or whatever. So today we're talking about planning, and we have done a little bit on the first one where we went into details with what we do on a Sunday. We call it family time. Other churches call it gathering, and we had some details. If you haven't yet, you should check it out. And today we're going into strategic planning, which is fundamental if you want to be, let's say, successful in your journey for church planning and leading the church. Successful. Wow. Or significant. We've done that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Success to significance.
Yeah, I think what planning does is it keeps you on track. I think the drift is real.
Yeah.
The drift, you can find yourself 1 degree, we'll just do that. We'll just add that. This is good. This is a great idea. Yeah. And you find you're drifting away from what you had intentionally in your heart from the Lord. So you have to plan to stay on that purpose, because God's given you a vision. God's going to use your gift and your, what He's placed in your heart to do in a context, and the best way to be successful is to follow that to its degree and be obedient to what the Lord said. Yeah. But we can, even in 10 years, the temptation is to drift and to add to, but we've got to come back to, what did God say? We haven't fulfilled the vision of God in 10 years. So you need to plan it and follow it and stay accountable, because that helps with accountability.
I think there's a challenge with the ego of, normally man's ego. As the further you go and the longer you stay in the journey, you tend to think, I know better. God gave me that plan. It was 1 page, and now let me add this, let me add that. And then that's the drift. And sometimes it's not bad. You're thinking about good things. They're not just God things. Like you always say, I have a good idea to plant a church. Well, might be a good idea, but it's not a God idea.
Yeah, a great blessing can become a curse if you're not careful. And that's why prayer is so important. You've got to constantly come back to that place of submission to the Lord. Otherwise you're bringing God on your journey. Yeah.
It's funny because we at the moment, as we're recording this, we're trying to help and support 2 families who might be starting a church. We don't know yet, but they're gathering and they think they have that. And we haven't had time to do, the diligence going like step by step, 2 years as we wanted. But, God put them in front of us, and we're trying the best we can.
It's forced us to
move forward. And I think on the positive side, there's a book. I think it's James Clear, the name of the author, Atomic Habits. And he talks about that 1%. On the positive side, if you improve 1% every day, at the end of the year, you will have improved I think it's 37% or something, or 370%. He's got his math. So we know that if we drift or if we change 1% of whatever it is that we're doing, just 1%, doesn't have to be 50%. And if we grow 1% or whatever it is, we know that works. But then on the negative side, that's also true. Because if you've planned this and you change 1% now, it might not seem like much, but 10 years down the track, it will look totally different. And you've said that before here in the podcast. You ask yourself, what happened? Well, you have to go back to the mission that God had given you.
And so that's got to hold you, what God asked. So everyone says that you have to have a vision, a mission, which I understand. It's fine. So our vision is Jesus. So everything we do has to point to that. Yeah. And our purpose, so everything's pointed to Jesus. Our purpose in that is so that we have healthy family, healthy nuclear families. Yeah. dad, mum, children, like healthy family. So everything has to be catered for that point, that purpose. Families from God. So if we can point to Jesus, that'll create healthier families. So let's just break this down practically. So we have 1, maybe 2 leaders meetings a year for anyone that's on a leader at Chapel. We're strong on leadership, like it's important. You need to have a leadership pipeline, which is another topic, because otherwise you end up doing it all yourself, and that leads to burnout, which we're going to talk about eventually. And
there's no sustainability.
No,
30 years later, you're out of the picture. And
so you have to plan for leadership pipelines. But if everything has to point to Jesus, then you have to ask, what am I doing, say at family time? Giving finances, so taking offerings. And I don't mind if people do. That's their prerogative. I was at an event the last 2 days, and they handed out buckets and people contributed. Great, whatever you want to do. But we would rather have communion than take up offerings, because communion is a direct
signal,
focus
to point
to Christ.
Yeah.
So, his sacrifice for us, for humanity, to salvation, is represented through communion. So every gathering, every family time, we will have communion, and someone will share on the power of the cross.
Yeah.
That's a direct point to Christ. We have Testify, where someone for 10 minutes shares their story and their connection, how Christ intercepted their life, where they were, and brought about change. That's a direct focus on Jesus. So before we've even had a message, read scripture, shared scripture, which is again Christ. Before we've done any of that, that's right, they've focused on the Lord.
Yeah.
They've heard about the goodness of God through someone's life, which is the prophecy of Jesus.
Yeah.
And then they're opening the word and they're reading scripture, which is bringing glory to Christ. Yeah. So, everything's intentional. Our songs are intentionally about glorifying God and fixing our eyes on Jesus. So everything you're doing is towards that. And that's going to engender that healthy family. And so, even our relaxed, we start when we're ready, finish when we're done, it just engenders that family feel. I don't chop my kids for being 2 minutes late home from work for dinner. Yeah. Like, man, they're home. Man, take a seat, pull a seat up. Your dinner's here.
And that was, in the beginning, you wrote that. We want a family.
We wrote that.
We don't want a show.
Yeah. So our worship team, they don't have a rehearsal during the week. Why would, is it necessary? Well, some people say it is, but I'm like, we're taking men and women, children away from their family.
Away from the family, yeah.
One night a week, say a Thursday night, usually, Tuesday night, whatever, from say 7
to 9.
To 9.
They miss the kids' bedtime.
Miss family.
Probably
dinner,
miss dinner.
Home, rushed, finish work, 6 p.m. Quick, hi family, bye, I've got to go to rehearsal. Just going over songs that's out of their home, out to practice, so that it sounds better and for our family. So I'm like, no, let's strip that back. Let's tell them what songs we're going to do, and they can just practice at home.
Yeah, with their kids. And their kids sing.
Yeah, if they don't practice at home, well, that's fine. That's okay. They don't have to. And they turn up on Sunday, and we might not even sing the songs anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's one example of how we're going to help families. So our youth only meets twice a month. I used to take my daughter to youth on a Friday night, which started at 6:30, and then they'd be finished by 8:30. So I'd leave home 6:15 or 6 o'clock, drop her off at youth, get home by 10 to 7, and then an hour later I have to leave to go and pick her up. I was like, what? That's taking me away from my family, my wife, our home time on a Friday night.
She attends a program, but it...
So we're like, let's strip that back. Let's make it Saturday night.
Yeah.
Because then...
You've had the whole day with the family.
You might have an event on Friday night with the family, birthdays, whatever. Family have just finished the week's work, maybe, so they can chill out at home, have fish and chips with the family, invite people over. Saturday, do all their sport, get their sport out the way. So Saturday afternoon, twice a month, we have our youth group. And that's from, 4:30 till about 9:30. So it's good 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours, chunky. Yeah. They have dinner together.
It gives time for the youth to be their tribe, because that's what they want.
Yeah.
They're in the stage where, like, I don't want to hang out with my dad anymore.
No, that's true. So, and we have no personal technology at youth.
Yeah.
So they drop their phones in at the door and they have to connect. Yeah. And so what's that doing? That's letting them connect with each other and hoping that maybe they do that more at home. Mm-hmm. It's having meals together, having fun, reading the word. Yeah. And it's instilling into their family, but only taking away from their family twice a month.
And that's transferable. You might not have noticed it because you came straight away upstairs. And as we're recording this is the second story, and there's youth activity going downstairs. And some of the youth dropped their phones right at the door. That's transferable. So, the guys who were leading it, they probably saw that happening a while ago. And the message is the same. Let's hang out together. This is what we're here for. There's no need for technology. So there's a couple of phones at the door right there. So I'm like, yeah, it worked.
It's good.
I took away Bianca's technology, so the iPad and everything is right here. So they're just having fun, and it's transferable because they are principles. And I like to think that rules are hard to be transferred because no one wants to obey rules. We all, rebels by nature. But principles, they are naturally followed because you grew up with them, and it's in your DNA.
And it's the value, right? So we want to put a value on connection, like meaningful conversation, and teaching young people to do that.
Yeah.
So that's all, again, trying to help families and focus on Jesus. So everything has to intentionally be that way.
Yeah.
So
I think before we move forward, a very interesting concept, especially for those who are not here in the Gold Coast. There's the families we're trying to help, and maybe in the future other people who might watch it. You have to understand the culture where you're in. Like Saturday night youth would not work for us back in Brazil, and Sunday morning church service, like this is the main thing here. It's still a struggle in Brazil. So when we had our planning time, and we spent days, if not months, writing it down, and it wasn't ready. And I mean, if we go into details, there's so many times that you told me, write your plan, and I didn't write it. But there is a cultural context to it. So some of the battles you want to pick, and you want to overcome that battle. Like we insisted on Sunday mornings because mainly for us, we thought if we do it on a Sunday morning, we have the whole day to spend with family. In Brazil, Sunday is the family day. Not Friday, not Saturday. Sunday is the family day. So generally, you go to your mother's house and you have lunch there, and you spend the whole afternoon there. And when the night starts to come down, then you go back home, and then you have time with your own little nuclear family. So we insisted on a Sunday. But I remember I was doing this exercise. What is it that God gave me? So this is it. So we started our church with a few things that we wanted to do, 1-page little plan. And the second question was, how does that fit into my culture? Because some of the things that God told us to do did not fit in the culture. We spoke about small groups, for example. We don't do them here because it's tiring and all in our perception. Over there, they needed something during the week. They did it. They asked. So what fits with our culture? Banquets for us did not work there because they didn't want to wait. So I did this exercise, and it took me a couple of years to find out the perfect balance, what God gave us and what fits in the culture. Not saying that you have to give up what God gave you in detriment of the culture. That's not what I'm saying. But some battles you're going to fight for nothing. It's going to be in vain. So with you, like, how would you recommend someone planning to do that? What is it that is really important that they need to hold really fast to it?
Yeah, and that it does come down to the Lord said. So our focus is Jesus. Our vision is Jesus. That's what we want everyone to see. Our purpose is your family. So we want a healthy family. So how are we going to do that? Family time, like I mentioned, all points to that.
Yeah.
Then when you put it through the filter of small group, feed the flock. So one of the things Jesus said to Peter was, feed my sheep.
Yeah. Do you love him?
Tend my sheep. Feed my lambs. So that's simply where we get feed the flock. So the flock needs to be fed a good diet of spiritual nourishment for their spirit, soul, and body in order to have a healthy family, in order to keep their eyes on Jesus. So Sunday, our family time's not going to do that. By the way, we don't broadcast on a Sunday because I don't record what I do in my lounge room with my family, my devotions, and tell the world, hey, this is what I'm doing with my family.
Yeah.
It's the same principle for chapel on a Sunday. We don't broadcast our family time because that's just our family. We don't want to be precious about our words.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to give the excuse, oh, you should broadcast because then we can be family with you across the state, that you're not family.
You're not family.
You're not here.
Family's there.
You need proximity. Like technology will never replace that.
No. And we've mentioned touch is important.
Yeah.
So, but feed the flock, because we're not going to cover in-depth subjects on a Sunday as we gather. That's where we have banquets to feed you in accordance to what diet you need.
Yeah.
So we have marriage course, which is like 8 weeks. We're not going to do that on a Sunday because that's going to cut out a lot of
and not everyone's
people.
married.
Not everyone's married. Not everyone wants to hear a message like that.
Yeah.
So we provide banquet on marriage. Circuit breaker. You'll hear from Matt Bolton at some point, but circuit breaker is 10 weeks on how to communicate better, how to deal with frustration, how to not get angry, how to identify your feelings. So that's 10 weeks. We're not going to do that on Sunday. That's valiant man. We're not going to do that on Sunday. But we provide this food in a banquet, and we're feeding people, and it's making their homes better, making their families better, making them better husbands and fathers and mothers. Money. We're not gonna talk about money on a Sunday as a family time. Yeah. We're just focusing on Jesus.
Imagine if I walked into my mom's house to have lunch and my mom hands me the bucket. Hey, to pay for the chicken.
It's not gonna happen.
Has to be natural. If I want to help, I'll help.
Man,
and she's pleased to prepare that for
if you opened your wallet to give your mum some money for that, she would probably give you.
She'll give me a slap in the face.
She'd be like, well, "Don't insult me."
I raised you for 35 years.
Don't insult me with a $20 bill.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's got to be. It's got to be that. So feeding the flock comes this generous overflow of what's going on in your life. God wants to provide healing, cleansing streams.
And you had said that before. Like, I think it's important to stop. I'm actually thinking about the people who are starting churches and how important this content is, because I didn't have that. We only had like our Skype calls, and I'm thinking, you said a few episodes ago the importance of being a good shepherd. And I'm not saying, Jesus is the good shepherd, John chapter 10. We're not trying to replace Jesus, but the shepherd knows the diet that the sheep need.
Yeah.
So there will be people in the congregation, 50 people, 100 people, that you're going to go like, okay, you need to work on your marriage.
Yes.
And you have that freedom. I don't. No one else does. Well, in our picture, you do. Some other churches might be bigger, might have like 3-4 guys who identify like that. So you know the diet that they need. And then you can tell them, look, do this, do that. And it's literally tailor-made for them.
It is. In accordance to where they're at. Yeah. So Purple Book for us is foundation. Yeah. New believer, someone says they want to give their life to Christ, follow him. Purple Book, 12 weeks, biblical foundations. I'm not going to do that on Sunday. But there's, so that's
it goes back to everything you said. Peter, feed my sheep.
Yeah.
And how many times have we repeated that? 1 Peter 3, 1 Peter 5, 1 Peter 5. Look after the flock that's being entrusted to you. It's foundational for us. So you're just
Sunday's
looking after them.
Sunday's not going to do that for us.
Exactly.
Sundays that we gather together, we encourage one another out of our homes. Like, man, I'm with you. I love you.
The way I try to translate that to our Brazilian culture back then when we did it, because initially my intention was, okay, let's bring chapel entirely back here, and it didn't work like 100%. But I told them Sunday is an intentional event with the idea of showing people how important it is to be family. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a show.
Agreed.
And we want people to say, oh, this is beautiful. So I'll give you an example. It's winter. And I just got a feedback from them this morning before I came here. They sent me like a 5-minute audio. They had this group of people who live in a shelter. They came to visit. Someone brought them like 20 people. So we had our normal breakfast. Everyone has a breakfast together and that kind of stuff. One of the ladies stayed behind, and she didn't have a place to go. She didn't want to stay in the shelter for many reasons that there's no point sharing it here. So one of the guys said, look, you can sleep on that van because the van is empty. It belongs to one of the guys. And she's been sleeping on the van. They're trying to find a place for her to stay, drug and all of that. So she's sleeping on the van. For 3 or 4 days, because today is Wednesday, I think, 3 or 4 days, some of the people from church are going back to the van and bringing her breakfast, food, caring for her. We know there's some mental illness there. And finally, she reported, she said, look, you know why I decided to stay in the van? Because I could be anywhere. Like, I know the city. When I came in on Sunday, every single person came to talk to me. Every one of them. I counted. There's about 60-something of you, and every single one of you came to say something. Wow. Some of you gave me a hug. Some of you gave me food. So I decided to stay on the van because I just feel good here. It feels like my family. I like that. They just bring tears to my eyes.
Beautiful.
And that is Sunday. Like, she's not impressed by the music. She probably didn't even listen to the preaching. But she's like, yeah, I enjoyed being here. So she's staying in the van because she's looking forward to the next Sunday. and
that's
like,
why
this is beautiful.
That's why we don't tell anyone who's sharing on Sunday.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. It does not matter.
Yeah.
We just gather because that's what Jesus wants. And when we gather together and we can encourage one another, you get people praying for one another. Oh, I'm struggling with this. My family's going through this. It's just really amazing. And then you've got the feeding the flock. So again, you have to plan that. So we do banquets, like we said. It's fine when you got 4 banquets. I did 3 of them. Someone else did 1 initially. And that was just on one A4 piece of paper. Yeah. Do this banquet, this one. And it's all in accordance to where your community's at. We had a small gathering. And then we do that twice a year. So just 2 windows. And then we give people rest in the middle. Have a rest. There's nothing on midweek. Stay at home.
We're not going anywhere.
Have your family devotions as a family. And we provide them with devotions. So feeding the flock is banquets. There's also internship, which is about feeding people. That's the intentional leadership pipeline. There's people hungry to serve the Lord. We actually got 11 interns starting on Sunday.
We'll save that for the next episode because the pipeline is intentional on that one.
It's intentional. You have to develop a pipeline, and it has to be in accordance to the capacity of your church. And then we have...
And according to your purpose. There's no point in you raising bankers. Like we don't...
So banquets, the internship, and then, we've just started the School of Ministry. Yeah. Like a Bible college. And because of the maturity... we're 10 years old.
So we got 6 new students already.
Praise the Lord.
So my goal is to try to get equal with the internship. So if we get 11, it's good.
It's a beautiful. So you're providing layers and depths. Yeah. And then there's obviously people that want to plant a church. This is a very different conversation than the School of Ministry, than internship.
This is why we're doing this.
Yeah, this is pretty raw and challenging. People couldn't handle this. A new believer would just be like, what are you talking about? You can't talk like this.
Planning for what?
Yeah. So, and that's feeding the flock. Yeah. And then there's obviously the shepherd the flock. So tend my sheep. He says, feed my sheep, tend my sheep. And then he says, feed my lambs. Yeah. So you've got 2 types of feeding. One for maturity and one for
caring,
like new believers. Lambs are a little vulnerable.
Or hurt people.
Yeah. So that feeding the flock's really important. And then shepherding is all the care stuff. And I think I've said it numerous times, but if you provide a healthy diet for your sheep through the feeding of them, then the pastoral care actually is less.
Becomes lighter.
Yeah. You can actually deal with the real issues.
Man, there's so much. Like I love the intentionality behind it, because you read the letter to the Hebrews, for example. It's supposed to be light. If it tells the sheep, those who are caring for you, let them do it rejoicing, not heavily. So, and it goes back to Peter, like, don't look after them as you're domineering over them, but just serving them. So
not dominating them, not ruling over them, but loving them because you want to. So there is this a need for, and you got to plan that. So, and that costs. So a banquet costs. So you do Valiant Man, and I've got no problem paying for this. It's $300 for the course, and then $35 per participant manual. So you get 10 people doing that. That's $350. You've got to plan for that in your budget. You can't just say, Purple Box is $16.99 at the moment. So you have 10 of those, that's $170. So there's $500 just like that.
I would love for you to give maybe a brief word to specifically pastors, because in the text of Peter that we love so much, it says, because you want to. A lot of people, they will either text their pastor or call their pastor and say, oh, look, I'm sorry to bother you. Or look, this is, and I keep telling people, no, you're supposed to bother me because we want to do this, right? So what would you say for that? Obviously there's boundaries and things like that, but you already said you don't want to hear about the boundaries because
I'm the worst probably for that. But shepherding, like for me, I want to deal with the real issues. So some things, people want help in their marriage. Okay, you really want help? Then do this 8-week marriage course. That's a good start. Don't come and see me until you've eaten from the diet that we've provided for you. If you're not prepared to eat that grass, you won't eat anything I say.
There's no point in surgery if you're not taking the medication.
Yeah. So that's good. So you have that filter, and so when people are in real have real needs that you can help, then they sort of filter through that range of diet. Yeah, and it's great. You're available to be there with crisis, but then you've got the care for those in hospital, for young mothers, for solo mums, for widows. For the young people, young adults. So there's, again, it grows, doesn't start with all that. But births, deaths, marriages, divorces, those things are important that we are available to minister. We have to minister to that. Yeah. That's what a shepherd does.
That's real life.
I think if you're too removed from that, then the sheep won't feel loved.
And the CEO model actually removes people from those situations. Yeah. Now let me handle the big stuff. Yeah. And you guys figured out the small stuff.
Yeah, big stuff.
But we don't realize that this is the big stuff.
That is the big stuff.
That's the real life. And this is just fantasy. Yeah. 2 years ago we had COVID. All of the CEO models just crumbled to the ground because, there's no more shows, no more events, no more nothing. Yeah. So how do you do it?
Yeah. So being there, availability is important. I think I've said on that before. That's definitely part of, I feel like
willing and available.
Church, you have to be available and respond. So I get all the emails. I only have one email address. Yeah. Even the ones from the website, they go straight to my email, and I have to commit to replying to them. I have one phone.
So there's no levels to reach you, like 3 PAs? No.
I have help coordinating my calendar, because one of the worst things for me is making time with someone and I don't show up, or I'm mistaken, and I don't want to do that.
Making them wait.
Or coordinating a meeting with 3 or 4 people in their schedules. it's a nightmare. So I've got someone that helps do that, but they don't see my emails.
Yeah.
They don't, people contact me. I make my own appointments sometimes. So it's not a PA per se.
And I think it's a lesson for, again, those who are starting. Don't go on the track for this CEO thing. No. Obviously, we try to do this as healthy as possible, but there's no limitations for having your phone, for example. Can I talk to Marsha? Bro, go and talk to them. Like I've said that to so many people. You go and talk to them. He's right there.
Yeah.
Like he's a normal person, just like you.
Yeah.
Do you know he uses the toilet just like you?
Yeah.
You go and talk to him. And you want his phone? Yeah. Obviously, we're not handling phones out, but that's the same for everyone.
People, so when someone does call me or email me, I'm like, the thought process that's gone through their head to do that, like that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I want to honor that.
Yeah.
Because they're a human being that deserve dignity and respect. So it's truly amazing.
My daughter does that. Mind blowing. Like you've told me a few times over Skype. I don't think you've ever told me that personally, but I use that and I taught that to our guys in Brazil, and hopefully we can teach this to the guys starting the church. As soon as you started the service, a few times you've said it, and it's like it's actually a privilege that you left your home and came here to spend time with us, to listen to what we have to say. It's mind blowing.
It's mind blowing.
When on the other hand, people are like, why haven't they come? Like we expecting people to come.
Anything.
Exactly.
So, but you have to plan that. So feeding the flock is all about giving them nourishment for their spirit, soul, body, so they can be a whole person, have healing, restoration, prayer, change mindsets so they can be a healthy family. Yeah. And all our courses are Christian based. Yeah. So it's all about Jesus and his redemptive plan. And then shepherding is literally you're in the people's lounge rooms. Yeah. You're helping them in their life. That's Jesus with skin on. That you're literally trying to be minister like Jesus would minister through our frailties, our brokenness, our weakness. Yeah. You trust and have faith that he can use you practically to help people. So that's the shepherd the flock. And that's, again, helping their family. That's bringing glory to Jesus because you're there. Jehovah Shammah, the Lord who is there. And we want to be there for people. And then there's the whole release on purpose. You need to plan that. So,
and for that you need a pipeline.
Baby dedications. So, that's cost. You have to have a Bible, have a certificate. That's a Bible, say $10. So $20.
Never do 2 different baby dedications. Like that's my advice to you. Like if you have planned to do a little certificate and a little Bible as a gift, don't do it next month for the other kid with a different thing, because that's a problem for you right there in a small church. Yep. I've done it, and it's a mess because the families are like, why didn't I get a certificate? It's a piece of paper. But they want the same. So plan well. Don't rock up on a Sunday. Oh, I forgot. No.
You got to do it in, meals, meal trains, visits to hospitals, flowers, order flowers for someone. So all these things need to be planned, and you need to, how much does that cost? Because that's going to impact on
by what you're saying, planning has a direct connection with cost.
Absolutely.
That's why you plan, because you don't want to fumble, you don't want to hit a wall.
Stock, and I don't want to ask for money.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, what a privilege. Yeah. I trust the Lord. The Lord will provide all my needs. So I just serve the people. And if the people give, well, that's on them. I don't need to ask them for anything. And
it's an interesting thing that you did when we were planning. We've been planning, the next financial year, they started now for 3 months, basically 3 months. Or you've been planning for longer. But now that there's a team and everyone's doing their separate thing, and you said, look, you do your budget. We'll see if we can accommodate it. Obviously, we have our metrics, a little bit less here and there. And here's what's going to happen in a year's time. If you use your budget, we'll reconsider and see what you need more. If you don't use your budget, we'll cut it because you planned for it. And
if you don't spend your budget, that means You've
That's not your
planned
capacity.
something that didn't happen.
Exactly. So I remember, 2 days ago, I sent you a little message. We're probably going to talk about this. Like, how do we manage this? Because the year started and I don't, it's new for me. So the fact that you're planning the cost is actually the only thing, apart from the grace of God, that's going to keep you on the track, whatever God told you.
Yeah. And we can relax now.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing December. We know what we're doing January.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. We can just walk it. And that creates so much less pressure and less stress on the team. It helps the account finance person, whoever that is, volunteer or paid or whatever, accountant, because they can see what's being planned and they can push back and say, hang on a sec, this expenses come through, but where's that on your budget? And so you've actually got accountability now. Yeah. And that's going to keep you, it's got to keep you on track. Otherwise you just, oh, this would be a good idea. Oh, this would be a better idea.
And this is a learning curve. You have to allow yourself a little bit of grace. You know, you will plan for something else is going to happen. There's margin. You accommodate for it. But generally, you probably want to follow 80 to 90% of the plan and the margins on the other 20 or 10%. Oh, we needed this, we needed that, and that's why you plan for margin. So my budget, for example, there is something every month for our teams. I know it's not going to happen every month. Yeah. But when we were doing it, Mikey was helping me and he said, oh, why don't we just do an equal figure for every month? And then instead of doing one lump sum, because if we do one lump sum payment right here and you spend it all, 3 months later, you're stuck. Yep. So I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So we might not use it and then we just save it or use it for something else and just be diligent with it.
So there is that flexibility.
I would love, I'll put it on the screen, a little, our A3 folder thing, and then we can show people how to do it. But the how is important. So we haven't mentioned
got release
before.
on purpose yet.
Yeah, no, I'm just mentioning like my, let's do release on purpose. And then we'll go to the thing.
Because that's the four things. Yeah. Release on purpose. Yeah. So you'll get to a place where people are, okay, cool. I'm feeling reasonably whole. My relationship with the Lord's great. I want purpose. And so it's finding a place for them to express and invest into the kingdom of God that maybe you can't provide. Yeah. So you have to release them into that sense of their God call. Some of that is found in family time. You get the plumber who loves, helping kids or youth or something like that. Yeah. Well, they find release, they find purpose in family time. Some it's teaching. You get someone who's a stay-at-home mum looking after kids, say. She might be a fantastic teacher, run a banquet. And a period of time is fantastic. She could even do that during the day.
She can plan.
So, all range of things. There's some people with amazing pastoral gift and yet they're a computer programmer. Yeah. But they just love people. So having them as part of the pastoral network, they can find amazing release and serving God in that. So, and then release on purpose is finding that which is beyond what we could do. Yeah. So there are people who want to help drug addicts or those struggling with addictions. So there's in our city, there's like a rehabilitation centre that's Christian. There's a Australia anti-ice campaign program. So instead of us starting anything like that, we just say, if that's in your heart, why don't you go and serve this great ministry? Yeah. Why don't you go and serve? It's not perfect. It's never perfect, but it's far better us putting wind in your sails, fuel in their fire, than us trying to duplicate the wheel.
And if it's really your calling, you go and make it better. Yeah. Yeah. Stay there for 5 years.
Exactly. So, feed the homeless. Yeah. Or help the homeless. There's 2 great ministries. Set Free is one of them, and literally help the homeless is another one. There's a lady who just came up to me. She's been knitting, what do you call it? Beanies. For people. Yeah. And she says, man, I've got all these beanies. Where can I give it? I'm like, man, why don't you release that to help the homeless? Yeah. So I put her in touch with the guy in our church who's helping that ministry. And he texted me the other day, said, man, this is fantastic. So all of a sudden you've got a nana who loves knitting, who's knitting for a purpose to help someone in our church who's helping a ministry in our city. So that's sort of endless.
Yeah. And you can reproduce that in any sphere.
Yeah,
There was an old lady before we started our church. Like, I was a new Christian, and we used to go play basketball, and we used basketball to preach the gospel after a couple of games. So we went around telling that story in a few other churches. Like, I didn't even know what I was preaching, but I was just sharing that story. One old lady saw it, and the next Sunday she came to church, and she brought this pile of what do you call it? The things that you dry the dishes with.
Tea cloth.
Yeah, tea cloths. Like tea towels. Yeah, tea towels. She like decorated them and all that. A pile, like hundreds. So she brought it to the church, and she gave it to the pastor, like old guys. Like, there it is. And it's like, what's that? What's that for? We don't have a use for this. And she's like, well, the boy said that we can do what we do for Jesus. So that's what I do. You find use for Jesus. And then literally she just, we had a ministry in our church that they handed out soup on the winter, and they found the kitchen and they gave it all. And it's like, that was an expense for them, and she just gave it away. Do one thing well for Jesus.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So you've got to find release for people. Otherwise they're stuck. And there's so many different aspects of that. They could find release in politics, or find release in, like, there's a lady in our church running for a local election. So there's people that love politics, so they're helping her with her campaign. And, it's got to, you've got to release people.
And the outwork of this, we've been doing this for 10 years, but even if you're starting, you as a pastor, you have to have that planning in your mind for, like, okay, in 3 years time, we used to call it a discipleship process. But just as an example, this Sunday I was walking in the church and having this quick conversation with this guy, and it's like, oh, I think I'm working too much and all of that. Got to pull back a little bit, and this is taking too much of my time. I'm actually thinking about planning the church, but I don't know how to do it. I was like, bling, idea. Okay. So I said to him, let's catch up during the week. And I know a little bit of the story for this guy. I don't know the whole thing. And when I tell you, probably tell me more about it. But I could see when he started, what he's been through, what he learned through the banquets and what he's been part of, and where he's going. And if he's got the characteristics and the gifts, that could be an avenue to release him on purpose. And I was like, okay, let's talk during the week. Let me get some more information first, and then we'll talk during the week. There might be something in there. That is the release on purpose. It has taken this guy, I think, 8 years, as far as I can think. So it's not overnight. No. The release is the last part.
Yeah, it is a lot. It actually, you got to start with family time, and that sort of sets the culture. Yeah. And from there, you need to feed them. Like, Sunday's not going to be deep enough for a lot of people. Sunday's ministry. It's hands-on. It's the voice of the Lord. It's scripture, sharing scripture, encouraging people. It's the feeding that's important. That's next, and then the shepherding. And lastly, this has lagged for 8 or 9 years. This release on purpose. Yeah. It's been very slow, but that's just how it is.
It's like you're on the treadmill, those long treadmills on the airport. Yeah. You start with family time and you go slowly. And then, banquet. And 2 banquets and 5 banquets later and 10 banquets later. Oh, okay. Yeah. Then I can help with something.
Now 55 banquets. Yeah. And I mean, that's thousands of dollars invested into the spiritual health and nourishment, spirit, soul, and body of our community. And that's going to make them better families. And that's going to make them fall in love with Jesus more. Yeah. So it's all pointing towards Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's give them the how before we wrap up. Like how you plan it. In my case, you said, get a sheet of paper in the beginning. Today has grown, my normal plan has grown to an A3 sheet of paper, not an A4. It's a bit bigger. And then we have what we do, when we do it, or how frequent we do it, and who's responsible for it.
Yeah, that's it.
So
like, I always put our purpose, our vision, Jesus. Our purpose is your family. And so how we do that is family time. And what is family time? And then what's the activity? Well, we have to gather. So we're going to provide kids program. What do we need for kids? Well, we need some more team. Yeah. We need a good curriculum. We need maybe more safety checks. We need a better login, attendance records, and then who's responsible for that, and when's that going to be done by. So you just put it along there like that. And then hospitality. Well, we want a real vibrant, happy team in the kitchen. And I'll tell you, it's a sick team. They're just so pumped. And then we want to provide nice morning tea every single gathering.
Yeah.
So who's responsible for the shopping? Because you have to shop. And it's a big shop every week.
Big shopping.
It's a lot of shopping.
It's like 3 or 4 carts every single Sunday.
Every Sunday. So you just go through that. Music. Well, we need better speakers. We need in-ears. We need DIs. You need wires. That all costs. And it needs to be factored in. So that's family time. And then that's going to, so if someone came to us and said, oh, can you do a church conference? I'm like, well, it's not really
doesn't point to anything.
It doesn't point to anything. It's just another event.
Yeah. What is the purpose of the event? One day there might be another purpose, but what is the purpose of the event? No, it does not align.
And so when you get down to releasing people, it's actually increasing the capacity of your church and the community. So now, like I used to run family time, I used to run shepherd the flock, feed the flock, release on purpose. And then 10 years later, Sash and Huff now run family time. So that means I'm not doing that now. So they own that. They have authority, they have responsibility, and they have accountability. They're running that. They've got the budget, they run the team, and they're doing a great job. But everything they do has to filter, and it's making sure that they don't feel like, oh, we'll just add this. Oh, we want to start broadcasting now. Well, is that going to impact on our family? Yeah. Well, it is. People are going to be all tense. Oh, I'm on video.
And we need more resources. And we need not.
By cameras and all that. We need to change the lighting. We need to, no, that's not our family time. Yeah. So it just provides that filter. You can keep coming back to it. Yeah. Feeding's pretty the same thing. Banquets, who's doing that? Who's looking after that? We need 55 banquets. Yeah. We need facilitators input. We need facilitators training. We need, So
when you're starting, like God gave you a vision. So our one is Jesus. Point to Jesus. Your one might be different. So you write that down. That's it. And then you write the core activities.
What's the purpose,
Sunday gathering.
The purpose of Jesus for us in this context is healthy family. Yeah. We want families to be strong in the Lord. That other people in the community who are mostly broken families or struggling will look at a follower of Jesus and go, because they don't look at the church building. They don't look at the church facility and all that. They look at their neighbor and they say, wow, I don't hear you yelling all the time. I see you having a great relationship with your kids. I see you going out on a date with your wife. Wow.
I want that.
I want that. My house is crazy. That's powerful. Your conversations in your workplace. How's your weekend? How's your family? How's your talking about your kids? And that's what we believe is our focus. So everything has to fuel and filter that.
It's like a funnel. I'm not a big fan of the idea of the funnel because it spits people out on the other side, but it's like a funnel. It starts big and not everyone's going to do the second one, the third one, but we just try to accommodate everyone.
Everything has to take people on this journey of seeing the power of Jesus Christ in your life.
And I think it's important when you write down your plan to understand, your church just starting 20 people, 30 people. You
got to
do everything.
It with 20 people.
Yeah. And you will be like, it's going to be your name.
Yes,
in
everything. On everything.
I'll run this, I'll run that, I'll run that.
Yes.
But you just bring someone with you.
Yes.
And they might not even have the gifts. That's okay. God will bring someone else.
And this is why you pray and you plan and you pray. Yeah. And you prophesy and you pray and you preach and you pray and you, because when you plan, you realize, I'm going to be exhausted. God, you need to help me. God, provide people along the way.
Yeah. This week, just a little perspective. I had a pretty busy week last week. I had 8 barbecues in my house, and for me, that's like, way too much. So I had 8 barbecues, lunch and dinner. I lost the count of how many people I had over, some from church, some from for FGC thing. I loved it, but it was exhausting. I'm not that guy, right? So at the end of the week, I was like, I must be doing something wrong, because of a week ago, I was loving every second, and now I'm exhausted. What's happening? So I generally do the same exercise you told me. Look back at your strategic plan. And I did this extra thing that we've talked about it, the wheel of life. So I was like, okay, how's my wheel of life? What's lacking? What's depleted, right? It's not a matter of being tired, but depleted. And then I noticed, I've sacrificed my family for 3 weeks in a row to get to this point. This is not good. So then I fixed a few things, tweaked a few things around, and then looked back at the strategic plan. And I was actually doing what was there, just extrapolated it because of holidays. So this week I took it all back. So I went, okay, what do I do on Monday? It's right there. Like, it's boring. My life is boring. It's all written down. Monday do this, Tuesday do this, Wednesday do this. I was driving down here. I was like, Wednesday, there's something missing to do, because I got the reflex of last week, too much activity. And it's not recording. That's it. That's what you do. It's like, okay, I'm happy with that.
And then basketball tonight.
And basketball tonight.
Yeah. But that's passion. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It needs to be that detailed. And so you plan and you pray, and then you have to, when you're planning, you're actually being prophetic.
Yeah.
Because you're saying in April next year, we're going to do Easter.
Yeah.
And Easter, we need a bigger venue, because
everyone wants to come to church on Easter.
So you're prophesying. Man, we need a more team for our kids, because we can't be the same.
Yeah.
There's more kids coming. God. So you're praying, God, I just really pray that, you bring the right people along that would help us and carry the load. And then you're preaching. Man, God's doing great things. This is what he says. You're preaching to people, and you're praying for people, engaging with people, planning for people, and you stick to the plan, and in a year's time you would have, and you do what you say you're going to do, you will increase. And
you will be surprised.
You will increase.
Faithfulness, obedience.
Yeah. But then after a year, you're like, oh, cool, I've done that. I'll just do the same again. No, you called to bear fruit that remains.
Yeah, I remember I saw a clip once, an NBA coach saying, a successful team is a team that sticks to the game plan even when the game plan is not working.
Yep.
In the beginning, it's like, you listen to that and you're like, nah, if it's not working, you change it. But you have to give yourself grace to finish the plan. You planned it for a year, do it for a year. In the spectrum of 50 years of ministry, man, 1 year is nothing.
Nothing.
So you overestimate what you can do in the short term, and you underestimate what you're going to do in the long term. So just do that. And then after a year, you look at the data. Oh, this didn't work. That didn't work. Okay, let's change this.
That's it.
But you have to allow yourself.
From a place of prayer.
Yeah.
Because maybe it didn't work because you didn't stick to the plan.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't work because you were first time you've done it. So you will tweak it a bit and it was awkward and dumb, and maybe you have to try again.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah. So
look at what we're doing here. How many different seats have we set down? How many different settings? And this is just a silly example of how it works. Like we're still trying. We have a whole year.
Yeah, we have more than but this is what we planned. This is what we committed to, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And so you're actually starting to plan before that other plan's finished.
Yeah.
But every year, Chapel has grown at least 10%. Every year, at least. Because
we planned it.
We plan.
Yeah.
We plan, and we prophesy. We give people release. We release people, and when we release people, we empower them.
Yeah.
To make decisions. To have you've got responsibility. Well, you're going to have authority for that. Yeah. And then you're going to be accountable for that.
I cannot stress how important it is. Planning.
Take
it from someone who's I've been, well, I'm still the apprentice, but I did it from the ground up when we went, took all your advice for 3 or 4 years. I rebelled against it, didn't do it, didn't write it down. When we did it, man, it's exactly that.
Yep.
And it's transferable. Right now, I'm saying the same thing to everyone, to the guys who are starting churches, to the church that we left there. Just plan, write it down, and
And
focus
stick
on that.
to it.
Yeah.
Stick to it. You know, you might look at kids ministry and think, oh, I've only got to do 2 things this year.
There's
I've got
only
to get
5
a
kids.
curriculum, and I've got to get a safety process to vet people who want to volunteer. 2 things. Yeah, but you do 2 things for that, 2 things for that, 2 things for that, 2 things for other things. You'll be surprised how long things actually take.
Yeah.
So our leaders meetings, we have 1 a year, 1 team time a year with the whole team together. That's more time with their family, less time away from their kids.
Yeah.
And that'll be a really inspiring time. We have, I think our staff team, we have 2, maybe 3 meetings a year. Because again, everyone knows what they need to do.
Yeah.
They've got accountability based on what their role is. So, I think that's just a
Good
bit
planning.
more on plan. I can't underestimate it enough.
Yeah.
Like,
I think after this, once people watch this, that's the point where they go like, okay, I need to contact these guys and I need a personal chat.
they do, because from your plan, remember, you have to count the cost. And if that cost is unrealistic, then you need to cut your plan.
And don't be delusional.
Yeah.
There has to be a cost. There will be a cost.
Yes.
And you write that cost down.
And you don't
I don't have that money. Yep. Write it down.
This plan, the cost of this plan is not dependent on your income. It's based on the community of faiths.
It's the capacity of the church.
It's the capacity of the church.
Yeah.
It's another topic we need to talk on is finances. How your personal finances as a leader, the faith community's responsibility with the finances, and how to receive personally and as a faith community. So, because this plan from God is going to cost you. And if you think that you're going to underwrite it with your personal finances,
that's every church planner, superhero.
It's a savior mindset. God's asked me to save this community of faith from financial issues.
Wait. You start as a Batman, you finish as a Joker.
Yeah.
Always like that.
Yeah. So you can't. There has to be that.
Yeah, because you think you're Bruce Wayne. I've got it all. I'm rich. God's blessed me, and God's gonna provide. Yeah, that's delusional.
Yeah, God will provide for you.
Yeah,
but
for
God
your
will
family,
for
your
your
table.
family, and actually, no, you're responsible for your family.
Yeah,
I'm the man of my house.
Yeah.
So I'll provide. I'll go to work and provide for my family.
I'll hustle or stress, but God provides for His family.
He's the head of the church. Christ is the head. So He will look after His family.
Yeah.
I'm a servant. It goes, Jesus is the head.
Yeah.
We are the body.
I feel like we started the finance thing already.
Okay. My role in the body is to serve the body.
Yeah.
I'm a servant. I'm one of the most, I'm like a blood cell that just oxygenates the blood.
Yeah.
I'm just going around helping serve. That's all I am. So I'm not the head. I'm not closer to the head. I'm a servant.
Yeah.
And so God's got to provide for His body, and He will with faithfulness and trust. He will. So you really need to get your head around that.
He won't give you more than what you need, and He won't give you less than what you need.
Amen. There's always enough.
Always enough.
And we think, there's a lot. Yeah. Anyway,
We'll go on to the next one.
move on.
We'll go on to the next one. We'll finish this one. Thanks for watching.
That was good.
Planning. Oh, we did. Yeah, good.
That's another plan. That's the second planning, isn't it?
That's the second planning. Yeah.
Probably
did part 2.
Probably went over the similar stuff, maybe.
Well,
it's still good.
When they watch and hear this for maybe 48 times or 50 times, they'll start to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's available for them 50
There you go.
times.
Done. Easy. So good.